Hello, everyone, and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. So, I'm back for another Have Your Say video where you at home get to vote on whether you agree with the outcome of this week's episode of RuPaul's Drag Race.
You don't have to say it every time.
And this video is for RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars 10, episode 11. So today we're going to be recapping the episode, going through the results of the Have Your Say poll, and we're talking about a little bit of recent tea to do with Acid Betty responding to the accusations that were made by a designer who said that Acid did not pay for an outfit. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. Okay, so let's start by recapping the episode. So the queens come back into the workroom after the elimination last week where Cuckoo, Cynthia Lee Fontaine went home. And it starts that Mistress is obviously feeling a certain type of way about being in the bottom and is not very happy. And then that kind of bleeds into the next day when the queens come back into the workroom and Mistress is still obviously not very happy. And there is a little bit of drama between Aja and Mistress seems to be kind of poking at Aja a little bit, and Aja responds back. And it was actually kind of a dramatic moment. I think one of the more dramatic moments we've had this season. And we'll get onto that a little bit later in the comments because there was a lot of comments about this moment and this drama in the episode. But we find out that the main challenge for this week is a talent show. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump straight into the talent show and I'll go through and give my opinions, and we'll also do the Have Your Say poll results for that as well. Okay, so we're going to go through them in order in which they appeared, which was alphabetical. And the first queen was Aja. And Aja did voguing mixed with an original song. I did enjoy Aja's performance. I did like that out of all of the original songs, hers at least incorporated something a bit different because she did the voguing in there, which is something that Aja does anyway, and that's what her background is. I also liked that she was mixing in a little bit of her culture and things like that in it. Aja has a tough job in a lot of ways because her talent show from All Stars 3 was so iconic. It must be difficult trying to live up to that. I think she did a good job though, and it was catchy. I liked the song. I was maybe thinking it was going to be a little bit more than it was, but I still enjoyed it, so I would give it a yay. It seems like you agreed because you gave 66.5% for yay, 29.8% for just okay, and then 3.8 for nay. After that, we had Bosco. I loved the way that Bosco looked during this performance. I mean, she always looks great, but this particular outfit, the blue, I really enjoyed. I liked that she was doing a little bit of comedy because it wasn't just a normal song, but I don't know, it maybe wasn't quite as funny as I thought it was going to be, but I did enjoy that she did the thing like the balancing on the chair and it was trying to make it a bit different. So I would still give it a yay. And it seems like maybe you disagreed with me slightly. I know, shock horror.
Gas! Gas! Gas!
Because you said 83.1% for yay, so that's the vast majority, 15.3% for just okay, and 1.5% for nay. After that, we had Diabetes. With Diabetes, I was thinking she was going to do something a lot different because obviously she went home on the talent show on her original season because she did a lip sync that wasn't necessarily that great. This definitely was an improvement on that, but I really thought she was going to come out and do something wildly different. It was a fun lip sync / original song, but it still, to me, didn't quite have as much of an oomph as I thought it would. The only bit that I really remember that was cool was when she stapled the dollar bill to her leg at the end, which, by the way, looks really painful. I don't know if that's real that she's doing that or if she's stapling into her pads. I don't know, but that kind of looks painful. But that's the only bit that really made me remember her performance. So I think I would give it either a just okay, maybe into a yay, but maybe more on the just okay side. And in the Have Your Say poll, you voted 49.1% for just okay, so almost half, 41% for yay, so still a decent portion for yay, and then 9.9, let's call it 10% for nay. After that, we had Ginger Minj, and she did an original song as well, but it was a bit more singing and kind of Broadway-esque than some of the others. Now, although we have seen singing and Broadway type things a lot on Drag Race, and maybe it's not the most exciting thing, I think I genuinely enjoyed Ginger Minj's maybe the most of everyone because it was a genuine showcase of a genuine talent. Not everyone can sing and perform like that. So personally, I really enjoy Ginger's. I do feel like some people feel like because there's favoritism towards Ginger, people are kind of crapping on Ginger a little bit. And I think that's slightly unfair because she is genuinely talented regardless of the favoritism. And what she did was genuinely impressive, but obviously quite safe because we know she can sing. But I still really enjoyed it, so I'm going to give it a yay. And in the Have Your Say poll, you did agree because you said 69.2% for yay, but then a quarter of you, 25.4%, said just okay, which I think is a little bit harsh, and then 5.4% for nay. After that, we had Irene the Alien, who also did an original song. Again, I feel like Irene was another one where, because she went home on her original season on a talent show when she made the glass of water, she did have a lot to kind of live up to. This was definitely an improvement on that. I really thought, though, especially because she did so well on her original bracket this season, I thought she was going to come out and do something really different. Although what she did was good, I feel like she went to the different talents because she kind of did three separate things, but I feel like she went from each thing a bit too quickly and didn't stay enough on each one of them for them to be kind of memorable. So to me, it kind of missed the mark slightly. So I do think I'd have to give it a just okay because I don't really remember much about it. And again, in the Have Your Say poll, it looks like you did disagree with me. I know, shock, shock, horror, horror. And you voted 47.3% for yay, but then 43.2% for just okay. So not actually that far behind. So maybe you were a bit more split than I thought. And it was almost 10%, 9.6 for nay. After that, we had Georges, who also did an original song / dancing. The thing with Georges is she is an incredible performer, and we've seen that so many times on her original season, on her other All-Stars, and on this one. So obviously, it's always going to be a kind of, well, we've seen it. You need to always sort of push the bar up and up and up if you're going to do the same thing. I liked this performance, but I don't think it was as memorable as one she did on All Stars 9, where the dancer kind of threw her and she slid across the ground almost. I remember that was really cool. And even though she did a good performance and it was very solid and everything, it wasn't that exciting to me. So I think I'd have to give it a just okay. And again, it looks like you disagreed, so maybe I'm just being extra specially harsh this week. But you said 52.1% for yay. Not that far behind, with just okay was 40.8%, so still quite a decent chunk. And then nay got 7.1%. After that, we had Lydia B. Collins doing comedy burlesque. I really liked the concept for this because we know Lydia is very conceptual, she's very quirky. I liked that she was doing something different that wasn't just an original song. Unfortunately, I think the whole execution of it was not quite as solid as she probably wanted it to be. When she was taking off some of the reveals, you could tell things were getting caught and the leggings didn't quite come off properly. And unfortunately, it did slightly detract because you were kind of watching that rather than the performance. I do appreciate, though, that she was trying to do something different and it was weird and random, and we all love that on Drag Race. But I do ultimately think I'd have to give it a just okay because I think the execution wasn't quite up to par. And it looks like you actually did agree with me on this one, although maybe you were even slightly harsher than me this time. I know, go figure.
You are a mean girl. You're a...
But you said 43.2% for just okay, but then 34.4% for nay. So that's quite a big proportion for nay, maybe because of the execution. And then 22.4% for yay. So that's still actually quite a decent margin. So it's not actually that far off, almost like a third split between all of them, but just okay did get the most. And finally, we had Mistress Isabel Brooks doing a comedy performance, but also / an original song. I liked the concept for this because she was talking about the Ruzempic, which is obviously a reference to Ozempic because of her weight loss. The only thing is, I did think it was going to be a lot funnier than it was because we know Mistress is quite a funny queen. I also didn't quite get the bit at the beginning, like the judges said, when she had the cutouts of Michelle and T.S. Madison. I didn't quite understand what that was in reference to. I just feel like the whole storyline didn't quite hang together and it didn't have as many laughs as I thought it would. I would still give it a just okay because I don't think it was bad enough for a nay, but it certainly would have been a just okay, maybe towards the nay side. It looks like you, though, were a lot harsher than I was because you did give it a nay. You voted 68.4% for nay, which is the vast majority. 26.1%, so over a quarter for just okay, which is maybe more where I would have placed it. And then only 5.5% for yay. I then asked you whose talent show performance gets a slay, as in the best performance, and you voted. Bosco got the most with 36.4%, which was the most by far. Ginger came in second with 18.7%. And then Aja came in third with 17.7%, and Irene not that far behind in fourth place with 10.4%. I'm afraid I'm going to have to disagree with you.
How could he say that?
I did like Bosco's, but personally, I thought it maybe wasn't as much as I thought it was going to be. It was interesting, but I personally would give the slay to Ginger. Now, I know some people would say it's favoritism or, whatever. I genuinely just think that with a talent show performance, you could do something out of the box and quirky, and I think Bosco did do that, but it is also a showcase of a talent that only you and not everyone can do. And Ginger, to me, proved that because she is an amazing singer and performer. And I feel like she gets overlooked slightly because of the favoritism. So personally, that's why I'm giving Ginger the slay. Okay, so now let's move on to the runway for this week, and the category was foiled again. So first up we had Aja. I did enjoy this look. We've seen this quite a few times on Drag Race, but to be fair, the category was foiled again, silver and everything. There's only so much you can do that's like metallic and all that kind of thing. I did really enjoy it though. I thought it was accessorized really well. I liked the hair. I think she made a reference to the girl from The Grinch, something who... I'll put her name up on screen. I can't remember the name now, but I did get that reference. But overall, I liked the look. I don't think it was necessarily something we've never seen before, but it was good. So I will give it a yay. Interestingly, you did say yay, which was 56.6%, but actually quite a decent proportion said just okay, which was 38.6%. So maybe you were kind of similar to me as well. And then nay got 4.8%. After that, we had Bosco. I mean, what's the point of us even competing with this? This look was amazing. Like, I remember when she came out, me and my boyfriend were watching it together, and I genuinely put our hands on each other and we went like, oh my God, because this is stunning. I mean, this was incredible. It was so opulent. It looked so good. The way she styled it, she modeled it, she looked gorgeous. And the makeup, I mean... I could go on for a very long time about this outfit, so no surprise, I am definitely giving it a yay. And it looks like maybe you agreed with me, maybe, because you said 95.1% for yay, which I think is maybe the highest proportion I've ever seen in one of these. And then 4.5% of you said just okay for some crazy reason. And then nay, it doesn't even show it because it's basically negligible. After that, we had Diabetti. I really enjoyed this look because it was something a little bit different. It was a different take on the theme. And she was using things like duct tape or something like that to create the outfit, which I thought was a really interesting way of doing it. I do think the bottom of the outfit, the skirt part, maybe wasn't quite as impressive as the top half. I'm not sure it quite married the two things that well. But overall, I really enjoyed the look and it was very creative. So I will definitely give it a yay. Interestingly, you gave it a yay with 48.6%, so almost a half, but 38% of you, which is actually pretty decent proportion, said just okay, and then 13.4% for nay. After that, we had Ginger Minj. I saw a lot of discourse about this online with people saying that if a kind of skinny girl wore this, people would love it, and maybe that's why people didn't like it on Ginger. I personally don't like those sorts of criticisms because I think that leads into body shaming. I think the look was good. I do maybe slightly agree that the hood was maybe a tiny bit too big, but I actually really enjoyed this look and it was something very different for Ginger. And I feel like a lot of people just want to hate on Ginger because of the favoritism. I liked that she was doing something new, so I'm going to give her a yay. But you voted 47.3% for just okay, so you were obviously a bit harsher than me. Nay actually got more votes than yay with 27% for nay, and then yay only got 25.7%. I personally would have had it the other way around and had yay be the most, but hey, what do I know? I only have 13 PhDs in fashion.
Oh, you're a liar. You're just a liar. You always were.
After that, we had Irene the Alien. I really enjoyed this look. I loved the fact that when she came out, at first I was like, oh, those wings are cool and those arms are very, very not moving. But then I realized obviously those aren't her real arms. She said that was a cast of her real arms, but they do look a little bit T-Rex small, but I really enjoyed the way she was moving her real arms as the wings. I thought that was really creative, really cool. The actual outfit itself looked very well made, the sort of like warrior goddess, so definitely she would get a yay. It looks like you agreed because you voted 89% for yay, which is pretty conclusive, I would say, 9.9 for just okay, which is a little bit confusing, and then 1.1% for nay. After that, we had Gorgeous. I did enjoy this look, and I don't think it looked like a cheap version of what Plastique Tiara would wear, in my opinion. I think the only similarity is like the dangling hair pieces, because I feel like Plastique did something sort of similar with her All Stars promo. I don't think this was necessarily the most spectacular outfit, though. She looked good, but it was nothing groundbreaking, so I would probably give it a yay, but maybe verging into just okay, because maybe compared to some of the others, it was a tiny bit more simple, but still enjoyable. And it looks like you maybe felt the same way, although you went more towards the just okay side, because you said 46.8% for just okay, which was the vast majority, 34.9% for yay, and then 18.3% for nay, which is still quite high. Then, penultimately, we had Lydia B. Collins. I really enjoyed this look because it was just so different to the others because she went down the more alien route, and she's not even Irene. And it looked so good. It genuinely looked like something you'd see in a cool sci-fi movie or TV show. It was just so well made, really quirky. It was kind of giving me that alien from American Dad, kind of like, 'cause it's like a little bit campy as well. But I really enjoyed this, and it very much fit Lydia's style, so definitely a yay from me. And it looks like you agreed because you said 72% for yay, which is a huge portion, almost 3/4. That was very quick maths, wasn't it?
I didn't go to school for math.
Then just okay got almost a quarter, which is 24.3%, and then nay got 3.7. And then finally we had Mistress Isabel Brooks. Personally, I actually liked this outfit more than I think a lot of other people did. I will say I do maybe now on reflection see that it looked a little bit bulky, maybe. I can see that on second look. But when the outfit first came out, I did actually think it looked really good. I do wonder if people are letting their biases because they just maybe didn't vibe with Mistress this season, or they don't like her behavior or how she performed. I don't know if maybe that's coming into it a little bit. I don't think the outfit was as bad as what they were saying. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst either.
I ain't saying I'm the best, but I ain't the worst.
So I think I would give it a just okay, maybe even a yay, but I can see that maybe it is a little bit bulky. And it seems like you did not agree with me. Maybe you agreed more with what the judges were saying because you voted 49.9%, let's call it 50%, for nay, so that is the biggest proportion. Then just okay got 38.3%, which is still a pretty big proportion, and yay only got 11.8%, so it looks like you really did not care for this outfit. I then asked you, whose outfit gets the slay, as in the best outfit, and you voted Bosco with 55.2%, Irene the Alien got 30.6%, and then third place was Lydia B. Collins with 7.5%. And I definitely agree. I would 100%, if it wasn't clear from earlier, I would 100% give my slay to Bosco. I loved that outfit, the way she carried it, the way she walked, the way she accessorized it. She looked the definition of drop dead Gorgina. Okay, so we find out that the winner for this week is Bosco. And in the Have Your Say poll, I asked you, did you agree with the top two? Now, again, I'm not 100% sure why I asked this. Maybe I should have changed it. I clearly forgot because we didn't actually have a top two necessarily. But anyway, let's just pretend we did. So I said, did you agree with the top two? You voted 60.8% for yes and 39.2% for no. So then I asked if you said no before, as in you did not agree with the top two, even though there technically was not a top two, who should have been the top two instead? And you can see that Aja and Bosco almost got the exact same amount of votes. So clearly those were the two that you thought should have been the top two. And Irene was not that far behind in third place. We then find out that the bottom two for this week are Mistress Isabel Brooks and Lydia B. Collins. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, did you agree with the bottom two? And there was actually a bottom two, so at least this question was actually valid. And you voted 71.6% for yes, so a landslide for yes, and then 28.4% for no. So I asked you in the next question, if you said no before, as in you did not agree with the bottom two, who should have been the bottom two instead? Now, it looks like you agreed with Mistress being in the bottom because Mistress got by far the most votes. But the person who came in second was actually Dia Betty. So Mistress and Lydia then lip sync to the song Guess by Charlie XCX featuring Billie Eilish, and Lydia is announced as the winner and is therefore safe, and Mistress Isabel Brooks gets eliminated. I asked in the Have Your Say poll, who do you think won the lip sync in your opinion? And again, this was a landslide, even more than last time. Lydia got 93.5% and Mistress got 6.5%. We then find out the wild card picks from the 3 judges who get to vote. So those are the queens who have already been eliminated, who have a chance to come back into the competition. And I think they hadn't really said what the rules were, so none of us really quite knew. But we found out that Mistress got 1 vote and 2 votes came for Kerry Colby. I asked you in the Have Your Say poll, which queen would you pick as the wild card to come back? And you voted overwhelmingly 59.1% for Denali, 12.2% for Tina Burner, and not that far behind was Nicole Page Brooks with 11.6%. Now, if it was going by who I would pick based on how they performed in their bracket, I think I would pick Tina Burner because I do think she arguably should have gone through to the semis because she did really well in her bracket, and I do think she kind of got screwed over a little bit with the point stealing and the shenanigans. However, we do have to think that the finale is a lip sync for the win, and I feel like when you think of that, I do think Tina's a good lip syncer, but I feel like Denali would be a really good pick for that because she is an amazing lip syncer. So from that point of view, I probably would pick Denali because I think she'll probably fit in a bit better with what the challenge actually is, which is lip syncing. Okay, so the final 2 questions were, question 9, who do you want to win the season? And Bosco got 40.6% of the vote. Irene came in second with 23.1%. And then Aja came in third with 13%. And Ginger was not that far behind with 11.1%. But then if we compare that to question 10, which was who do you think will win the season? Ginger Minge got a landslide 84.9%. And then Bosco came in second, but it was only 7.8%, so hardly anything. And then Georges was third with 6.1%. Okay, so let's move on to the comments for this week, and it was a wild range of comments. So I've grouped them into vague topics to make it a little bit easier. So we'll start with my Patreon comments. So my Patreon Nikki was talking about the wildcard picks and said, cannot believe Denali and Tina weren't anyone's wildcard picks. I call shenanigans. And she also mentioned something like Mistress, which we'll get onto in a second. But yeah, I 100% was gagged that neither Tina or Denali got any votes. I think they both should have got a vote. I also do feel like the 3 judges should have been made to pick 3 separate queens, and you shouldn't have been allowed to vote for someone who's already been voted for. So yeah, that part was a little bit disappointing. Then in terms of the talent show itself, my Patreon Debs said the talent show was so-so, which I kind of agree with. I do feel like it was maybe a tiny bit lackluster and there wasn't that much variety. It was a lot of original songs again. So yeah, I don't think it was the best one. And my Patreon Elizabeth Ann said, I will say at least Mistress tried something new and different, which I will agree with. At least it wasn't just another original song. It was at least trying to be something a bit different. Then another big topic that came up by a lot of people was production meddling or favoritism, that sort of thing. And for example, my Patreon Max said, see, if there hadn't been obvious meddling, I might be all for Ginger to win, but now I'd rather see anyone else win. I feel like a lot of people think that, which is a bit of a shame to Ginger. I think it's not her fault. My Patreon Linda said, I echo so many of you. This is the most overproduced season ever, and it didn't need to be. I do agree with that. I feel like the production has actually slightly tainted the season, which is a shame. And my Patreon Patty had an interesting theory saying, I smell a double crowning of Georges and Ginger. I guess because these are the 2 that have previously been on All Stars before, and they're kind of production and RuPaul favourites. So let's see. That would be certainly an interesting way to go about it. Then one of the other big topics was Mistress, as usual, because she is obviously a very big talking point this season, or any season that she's in, frankly. And a lot of people I feel like didn't quite vibe with Mistress, particularly in this episode after the drama with Aja. And for example, my Patreon Tyler said, Mistress forgot that dragging less popular queens like Tina Burner might come off as shady fun, but going after someone like Aja, who's both beloved and vulnerable, or a stronger queen like Ginger, just reads as petty, fake, and mean. And my Patreon Sue had a similar opinion, saying that Mistress was kind of coming across instead of playful, it was coming across as just mean. And there were also a lot of comments in the Have Your Say poll about that, with people saying that they think that Mistress sort of crossed the line and she was coming across too mean or too much of a villain, whereas some of the other queens handled it really well, but not Mistress. But as I will say, please don't be hateful or mean. There were some quite hateful comments about Mistress in particular, and I'm not going to show those because I don't go in for that. That's really mean. You can have your opinion about someone, but at the end of the day, they're a human being. You might not like them, but it is just a TV show. So I think some of you maybe just need to think about things before you type them on the internet. As I mentioned earlier, there were also quite a lot of comments about people saying that this particular, either the season itself or in particular this talent show, were not great. So someone said, this episode was such a mid-off. 8 lip syncs to original songs. It's supposed to be a talent show. There's also a lot of comments about production interference and meddling and things like that, saying that they feel like they had to let Ginger win, but Bosco is their true winner. And then someone also brought up the point that I also said and a few other people said, which was, maybe I misunderstood from the start, but I thought every guest judge would vote for their favorite queen to be entered to come back, not just the main judges. Having only 3 balls with 2 names was lame. And I do agree. Let me know in the comments what you thought was going to happen, because they didn't quite make it clear. Do you think that every single guest judge, so like probably 5 of them, should have been able to vote? And do you think they should have had to vote for different people and no double votes? Or do you think the way they did it was fair? Also, was it just me, but when they said that Ross Matthews voted for Mistress, I was thinking, I wonder how they did that, because Mistress literally just got eliminated this episode. It would have been the same for anyone who got eliminated this episode, but did they call Ross? Was Ross like backstage waiting? I'm assuming not. So it comes across a little bit like production riggery. I don't know if it is, but it certainly doesn't make it look that great. And I feel like if they had added some kind of explanation, like that the judges voted in advance or something, I feel like it could have maybe tried to cut that off. But unfortunately, it does make it look a little bit like it was planned from the start. Okay, so now we're going to move on to a little bit of light tea to do with Acid Betty responding to the accusations made by a designer that Acid did not pay for an outfit. So if you watched my Have Your Say video for last week's episode, you'll have seen that on the Race Chaser podcast with Willem and Alaska, they recently had a guest on named Chokra, who was the designer that made Acid Betty's paper doll runway outfit for All Stars 10. On Race Chaser, Chokra said that Acid did not pay in full for the outfit. Then, apparently, Acid ghosted them, blocked them on social media, and also burned the dress, which they described as, quote, burning the evidence. There was also a lot more to the story, so if you haven't watched my previous video, I'll link to it in the description, and I suggest you do watch it because it will give a lot of useful background context for this video. As I explained though in my previous video, this was only one side of the story, and Acid Betty hadn't responded to these accusations of non-payment. A short while after the Race Chaser podcast came out though, a lot of people were calling Acid out online for allegedly not paying for this outfit. And I saw that Acid actually responded to someone on Threads, and she said, "I love trolls who know nothing about anything. Tune into this week's podcast for receipts, text messages, emails, and timelines. Bring empty teacups. Oh, and work on your troll riddles. This one sucked." And she linked to the Petty Betty's podcast on YouTube, which is a podcast that she recently started with Diabetti. The podcast episode, however, only just came out this morning, my time, and Acid gave her side of the story. I watched the podcast and it was quite long, so I'm going to go through and summarize just the main points. I'll also link in the description to the full video on the Petty Betty's YouTube channel in case you want to watch the full thing, because it was actually very interesting. So they started off with Acid saying she never wanted to publicly address how unhappy she was with the paper dress because she didn't want to ruin the fantasy for people watching it. But Acid said that it was a, quote, miserable process getting the dress made, and she had seen that the designer had made some comments saying that Acid did not pay for the dress, among other things. So Acid is going to go through all of what happened with texts, emails, and receipts. First of all, Acid said over the 20 years that she's been a professional creative, there have been a few times that she did not get paid for things that she made, and she even once sued someone for just $300 just because she wanted to prove that she did make it. So what she was saying is, if the designer felt like Acid didn't pay, they should have sued her. But he didn't because, quote, he knows he's 100% wrong and he basically lied. Acid then played a clip from the Race Chaser podcast where Chokra, the designer, had implied that they've never seen Acid make a full garment.
You know, Acid Betty she is a crafty queen. I mean, she's an incredible painter, and I guess she has some knowledge in construction, but I haven't really known her to make any of her full outfits from scratch.
Then this is what Acid said about that.
We paused on an outfit that I did make, so that's pretty good for a painter and a crafty queen, I must say. I made all these things. I made all of my monster coats. I made the outfits that you and I wore.
You made this purse.
Acid then went into explaining how the garment was made. So apparently, Chokra quoted $5,000 for the outfit, and Acid wasn't sure if she could pay that much for a paper outfit. But apparently, Chokra agreed to $2,500. Then, on June 13th, which was a month away from when Acid had to fly to LA to begin filming, Acid sent Chokra the ideas of what she wanted the outfit to look like. Then, on July 12th, Acid messaged saying that she was nervous because she wasn't sure it was going to be ready on time. Then, the next day, on July 13th, Chokra sent over the colours, even though Acid had sent him the colours almost a month before. 3 days before Acid had to fly out to film the show, the designer said he didn't know how to make the sleeves out of paper. So Acid apparently had to tell him how to crumple the paper multiple times to make it soft like fabric. Then she explained that if you make an outfit out of material, she can understand why it would cost $2,500, but this outfit was made of paper, which is really cheap. However, she then went on to say that when the designer eventually sent photos of the progress, it wasn't what Acid had asked for, so they went on a call and discussed it. Then, for the back of the dress, which was supposed to look like it was on fire, Acid wasn't happy with how the dress looked, and she said that the flames looked bad and were pointing in the wrong direction. So, Acid sent the designer a video explaining how she wanted the flames to be made using the paper. The next day, the designer had only done part of it and said that he had an assistant with him to help, but he said they were making, quote, good progress. But Acid said it still didn't look like the mock-up that she had sent. She also said she doesn't want to call him a, quote, designer because he was more like a, quote, constructor, because Acid said she was the one that actually designed it and he just put it together. Ultimately, Acid said she still wasn't happy with how the end product looked, and he hadn't burnt the back of it like she had asked to make it look charred. So once he gave her the outfit, while they were on set, Acid had to stay up at night in her hotel room while they were filming to make changes to the dress. And she showed side-by-side photos of the dress that she was given by the designer, which is the photo on the left. And then the photo on the right is the end product after Acid had made all of the changes herself. Acid then explained the reason she outsourced the dress to the designer in the first place was because she didn't think she would have enough time to get ready because she makes everything herself. But she said that not only did she not get what she paid for, but, quote, I had to deal with the repercussions of him telling people I didn't pay for it, which is such bull bleep. She then said she paid him the amount that they agreed, but then he sent a revised invoice, and apparently the price had changed.
And also after that, he then in September sent an email that said he made adjustments to the price, and it's now $3,000. Yeah, and then he sent another email acknowledging that I paid $2,500 and that now the cost is $3,600 because he started including more materials and labor of a person that I did not ask to be hired. It was not my fault that he ran out of time.
The other thing Acid wanted to address was the Instagram post where she set fire to the outfit because the designer said that that felt very personal and they felt like it was Acid, quote, burning the evidence. But Acid said she told him from the start that she was going to burn the dress as part of her, quote, artistic expression. And Daya said that if you pay for something, you can do whatever you want with it because it's yours anyway. Acid then said that apparently the designer had made an outfit previously for Plastique Tiara, but she apparently didn't pay him for it and hadn't tagged him in anything, and his business was not doing very well. So Acid said if he gave her some of the accessories he sells, like crowns, Acid would wear them on TV to help promote his business for free. But Acid said listening to him on the podcast was, quote, like listening to my abuser. Acid finished by basically saying the designer didn't do what she had asked, so she didn't get what she paid for, and she had to finish the outfit herself. She also said that people can go onto the Petty Betty's website for the full receipts and pay a donation, and all of that money will go to Chakra.
You just have to donate, and the donation goes directly to Chakra. So you can choose what you want to, what you want to donate for all of their amazing work. So I'm giving William and Alaska's show and William, whatever. I'm going to give him 4 days to donate to Chakra, and let's see how much you think it was worth.
So that was just a quick summary of what was said on the podcast. And as I said earlier, I'll link to the full podcast episode in the description, and I encourage you to go and watch it if you want to hear the full details. But please remember, do not send hate to anyone involved and just consume this type of content passively. So there you go, there was the Have Your Say video for RuPaul's Drag Race All Stars 10 episode 11. What did you think of the semi-finals, and who do you think ultimately is going to win the crown? Let me know in the comments. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my latest Patreon member, Ryan, who joined in the You're a Winner Baby tier. Ryan, you are a winner, baby. If you'd like to get early access to my videos, have your comments featured in my Have Your Say poll, as well as a raft of other benefits such as exclusive content and personalized videos, please check out my Patreon. It's a simple and cheap way to support the channel, and it really does make a huge difference, so please check it out, and I'll link to my Patreon in the description. Also, just a massive shout out to all of my incredible Patreon members. You are all absolute legends. I love speaking to you in the Patreon chat. I love reading your comments, and I'm just so appreciative of your support. Honestly, it blows me away every single month, so thank you so much. Please make sure you give this video a like and a comment because it really does help boost it in the algorithm and promote it to more people. And I'd love to get to 150k subscribers by the end of the year, so please help me out by smashing that subscribe button and getting me ever closer to my goal. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me in the future for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets, and drama. Thank you so much. Bye!